Welcome back for another edition of the Kaufman Corner. You'll notice somebody's missing, or he looks really different. The good Dr. Rany Jazayerli on vacation. We are fortunate to be able to add the great David Lesky from Inside the Crown to take his place today here on the Kaufman Corner podcast, where the Royals have now taken 3 straight from the Chicago White Sox. Where is our playoff optimism meter? We're going to talk about the MVP candidacy of one Bobby Witt Jr. Should he be the MVP? Where should he be in the discussions? We'll talk about that. Predictions on the second half. What kind of record do we think this team's going to end up with? Gone. Jordan Lyles. I haven't spent a lot of time on it, but I think it is at least a couple of things to discuss there. How to handle the innings load on the starting pitching. It's like having him go a complete game, apparently, is how it's going to be. Trade deadline targets. We're talking about it all right now here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.
You're listening to Kaufman Corner, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro. Rany is a co-founder of Baseball Prospectus, author of Rany on the Royals, and former columnist for Grantland, The Ringer, and The Athletic. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here's your hosts, Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro.
Thank you, Curtis. Off and running here on a, celebratory Kaufman Corner as the Royals have opened the second half with a sweep of the White Sox. Listen, we knew this was coming, David, that they were going to get a chance to come out of the gates kind of hot. The schedule breaks well, but listen, I think there's still cause for celebration. Doing what you're supposed to do, keep losing teams losing, and the Royals have done that. There's no apologies needed, and they again do it with great pitching.
Yeah, I mean, the schedule is what the schedule is, right? You can't beat the Yankees. Well, that's a bad example right now. You can't beat the Phillies when you're playing the White Sox. So you beat the White Sox, and that's what they did. That's what's on the schedule. And look, I mean, I think that there's a really interesting mental aspect to this, that the Royals were not playing great baseball before the break. They got a break. Now they got a chance to get some confidence, and let's see if they can carry it through. I mean, I don't know if they can or can't, but I can tell you this: the Royals are 9-1 against the White Sox. The Guardians are 5-5. It's not just the White Sox are they're not a good team. Well, that's a given. Yeah. They are a brutally terrible team, but they can win some games. They've beaten the Guardians, so the Royals took care of business. That's worth celebrating, I think.
Yeah, and Seth Lugo, we had a little wonders. Like he gave, first of all, they were all stars he was pitching against, but he gave up a couple of base runners there, and then his last start wasn't so good. So I, for one, was like, okay, is the tank on empty, right? And you're supposed to dominate the White Sox, and he did. The tank didn't look like it was on empty for him today either.
Yeah, well, look, you're supposed to dominate the White Sox. Yes, 100%. They averaged 3.1 runs per game, which, by the way, is crazy, but it's not. I mean, they score a couple runs here and there. The Royals held them to 3 runs all weekend. So yes, you're supposed to do well against them, but what Lugo did today, what Singer and Walker did on Saturday and Friday, respectively, those are great outings against anybody. Yeah, maybe against another team, instead of 7 shutout innings, it's 6 innings, 2 runs. But they all pitched exceptionally well, and they just happened to get a little bit of a boost because the White Sox are so bad, I think. And yeah, I was worried about Lugo too, actually. Like you said, bad start against the Red Sox, couldn't locate. That's maybe a sign of some fatigue a little bit. All-Star game, wasn't so worried. All-Stars, it's fine, it happens. But he came out and he located really well, pretty much all game long. There were a couple spots he missed, but I was writing my weekend in review earlier, and I looked at the pitch chart. That's a Seth Lugo pitch chart. Everything's out of the middle, but everything's a strike. He pitched well. He looked like the Lugo we've seen so often this year.
Yeah, and I like this one. So much for Soren's theory that Bobby Witt Jr. was going to wreck the swing after coming back from the home run derby. I did not have a theory. I have concern because we've seen it happen before. It was not a
Yeah.
theory. Let's at least quote me honestly. But I constantly worry. That's what I do. I worry that Patrick Mahomes is going to get hurt. Every pitch that Zach Greinke threw with his twisting and turning on the mound and fidgeting around, I was, oh God, did he just throw out his back? What's going on? I worry. Is it okay to worry? I think so. But no, Bobby Witt Jr., 3 hits in 4 straight games. He looks amazing. We're going to get to him and his MVP candidacy here in a minute. And somebody else said, a sweep was the only acceptable outcome. I think it was Buccaneer Bruce said, a sweep was the only acceptable outcome against the White Sox. I get that. And when they got the sweep, it's okay to go ahead and say that. But realistically, they're going to play some other bad teams.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to lose a game. It is baseball. So
they lost 2 of 3 to the A's. They lost 2 of 3 to the Rockies. They almost lost 2 of 3 to the Marlins. I feel like I'm missing. They won. They played they won 3 of 4 from the Angels. I know 4 games are hard to sweep, but you're going to lose games. Like the White Sox, as bad as they are, have won 27 times this year, which feels like about 23 more than I would have expected. But bad teams are going to win games against good teams, and good teams are going to lose games against bad teams subsequently.
Right.
So yeah,
I love this one. 2 wins until they top last year's win total.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's going at that one. And Cotman, yes, chiding him for saying that Bobby Witt was a sure thing for 3,000 hits. I meant this year. He said he's going like that. I mean, he's leading baseball in hits. He's a big part of it. Let's go ahead and get the where you're at as far as the playoff optimism meter goes. Last week, if people don't remember, we were down. They had a disappointing loss 2 out of 3 to the Red Sox. Rany brought him in at 4.5. I was down to 3.5 on a scale of 1 to 10. Where do you sit now, David, as far as your optimism meter on the Royals?
So as an objective analyst here, I look at that and I have to think, okay, they beat the White Sox. We're feeling really good because they swept a series, but it was still the White Sox. But it was a great weekend. Just an absolutely perfect weekend for the Royals. Only thing that would have been better is if the Guardians had lost on Friday. Everything else fell just perfectly. I feel like I want to say 5.5. And I'm going to say 5 because I feel like if I knock myself down a half a point, it gets me back into the realistic range. But look, Fangraphs has them at 51% right now. Prior to the game today, Baseball Reference was a 64%, which that seems wildly high, but 64% is pretty good. Baseball Prospectus 39%, a little bit low, but it was it'll probably come up tomorrow when they run the numbers again. So I'm going to say 5. I think that's maybe a slightly optimistic number, but I feel good about it.
Yeah, I'm not. So you're gonna settle at 5 even?
Yeah, I think so. I want to go higher, but I feel like I said, if I'm thinking higher, it's because I'm high from the weekend. So knock myself down a half a point, and then I'm back to normal.
Yeah, I am gonna bump them up. I shouldn't. I should probably stay where I'm at. I'm gonna go to a 4. I'm gonna go from 3.5 to 4 because one of the reasons it wasn't really an overreaction to the Red Sox. I mean, we were talking about this, you and I, before we got started here tonight, just on where the schedule is. And I've been pointing this out for a while that, I think it's about 2 or 3 weeks that their second half schedule looks really tasty. Now, Arizona's playing a little bit better, but, White Sox, Diamondbacks, Cubs, White Sox, Tigers. And then, that's a pretty nice little stretch to get on a roll again and get some confidence and get way up over 500 to where you're not, one point, you reminded me, I didn't realize they got this close. They were down to just 5 over 500. Right, they're back to 10 over 500 right now. That's a great stretch. But the reason I'm probably going to be negative Nelly here for a while, because what's in my head and what I can't get to go anywhere is starting on Friday, August 23rd, 3 at home with Philly, 4 at Cleveland, 4 at Houston, 3 at home with Cleveland, 3 at home with the Twins, 3 at New York, and 3 at Pittsburgh. That is a stretch that takes them all the way to September 15th. And it's when it's nitty-gritty time. That part scares me, right? And so the Royals, they did what they're supposed to do. And listen, 2 out of 3 is what you're supposed to do in baseball against the White Sox. They did even better. They got a sweep. And so I want to make sure we celebrate that and we give credit where credit's due. But that is a bear of a schedule. Now, you can look at the Guardian schedule, and they've got a lot of those same teams that they've got to still play. It doesn't kind of come in that one run like the Royals. I don't know if that'll be better or worse. And I've always felt like the Guardians should come back to the pack a little bit. But there's, now the Astros are there. Well, the Mariners, I think the Mariners are going to do something big. I think they've got to go out and get the biggest bat that they can. And I think that town and that team is kind of like the Chiefs at 50 years, right? With the Patrick Mahomes move, right? When they made that, it'd been 50 years since they won a championship. The Mariners have never won a championship, and they feel like they've got a lot of the pieces there. They've got great pitching. I think they're going to make a move that's going to make them tough. Boston has no choice when you're in a big market. They've got to keep putting it in. So, I feel like it's 4 teams for 2, the loser of the West between the Mariners and Astros, which I think will be the Mariners, the Red Sox, the Twins, and the Royals. Those 4 for 2 spots is what I think, because I think the 2 AL East teams are going to, winner and second place. Although the Yankees have done their best to try to.
The Royals are only 3.5 behind them now.
I still don't.
Which is crazy.
Don't you think they're going to right the ship, though?
Yeah, probably. I think so. I don't know. I haven't watched them enough to really know what's wrong with them right now. But yeah, I mean, they're the Yankees. You feel like they're going to get better. But also, I mean, thinking about it, it popped in my head. I forgot 2022 that year, I thought they were going to run away and hide. And then they kind of came back to the pack. That was the year that the Royals traded Benintendi to them. And I thought it wouldn't. I remember saying, I think it was on your show, I thought they're going to trade Benintendi to the Yankees. It's not going to matter that he can't go to Toronto, because that last series they're going to have already clinched, and they were like a half game up or something at that point. So this is not the first time they have come out of the gates looking like the 98 Yankees and finished decidedly not like that. So we'll see. I believe they will, because of the Yankees, and they have enough pieces to go out and get players at the deadline. But I think I agree. But at the same time, don't you think that if the Royals are 2 of 4 possible teams, that gives, to me, that feels a lot better than a 4 personally. I think that makes me think that they have at least, I don't want to say 50-50 necessarily, but I think they have a better shot than a 4 would indicate. But I also agree with the 23 game stretch. That's brutal in August and September. So
yeah, Buccaneer Bruce is at a 4. Kurt is at a 3.5. So there's a couple of us that are still a little bit pessimistic on it. I listen. I think if they just dominate this run, then maybe I'll feel a little bit different. If they can get and I don't know if they're gonna. And I'll be honest with you, I was the last guy to get on board that they were gonna make it in 14. Right? Like,
yeah.
I remember when they got to a point, and it was just finally someone's like, mathematically they're almost there because of A, B, and C. And it wasn't until we got into like mid-September where I was finally like, okay, this is going to happen. So no one needs to panic that I'm not on board. I'm no soothsayer.
The good news is, no matter what we say, that's going to be decided on the field, not based on our playoff optimism here. So that's a positive. For sure. All right. Tell me, by the way, we're proudly brought to you by our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. They're nationally recognized for the great work that they do. They've been solving parking lot problems in Kansas City since 1994. Full service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. That includes everything like striping, signage, even the drainage. Yeah, you don't think about those things. They're experts at every possible kind of parking lot problem you might have. Why risk accidents and liability in your lot? Get your lot restriped today. A brightly striped lot cuts down on accidents and keeps your parking lot as safe as possible. You can focus on your business. Know our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's best. Call 816-484-3338. Find them online at gannasphalt.com. That's one contractor, all things parking lot, Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Make the case. I know you were big on this. Bobby Witt Jr., the MVP. There's only, like, when you look at where he is on, I was looking up like WAR, because I do think a lot of the MVP voters now have become very analytically driven. Mm-hmm.
And on WAR, if you want the tops in WAR, and this is going into today, I'm sure Baseball Reference, they usually don't update till about 9 or 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Gunnar Henderson, 6.6, Aaron Judge, 6.5, Bobby Witt Jr., 5.6, which is 0.2 higher than Shohei Ohtani at 5.4. What's the case in your mind for him as the MVP?
The case, honestly, is the story. And if you look at Fangraphs, and you can get live stats up to the minute there, he's at 6.2 behind Gunnar at 6.3 and Aaron Judge at 6.6. By the way, Juan Soto's right behind them on Fangraphs at 6.0. So there's 4 American leaguers before you get to Shohei Ohtani 5th at 5.4. It's a tough field right now. But to me, I don't think he'll win. I think it's Aaron Judge's to lose because Aaron Judge is putting up a historic season. I don't think he'll win the Triple Crown, partially because of Bobby Witt and Stephen Kwan, honestly, because Judge is only hitting 309 compared to Witt's 337. But the argument, if you want to make one, is the story, because the Royals lost 106 games a year ago, and Bobby Witt Jr. is the best player on the team that is turning it around to be in a playoff chase, and not just the best player on that team, but one of the best players in baseball. And if you look at Fangraphs, he's less than half a win behind Aaron Judge, and Aaron Judge has Juan Soto and Giancarlo Stanton hitting home runs when he's healthy. Stanton's not a great player anymore, but he's a positive contributor offensively, no matter what a Yankees fan will tell you. And I think that's, if the voters are close, the story might win. Personally, my guess is he finishes second or third behind. I could see him eking out Gunnar Henderson. I could also see Henderson finishing second and finishing third, but it's an interesting story that maybe he could be the guy to pull it out. And look, if he has another massive week or two, all of a sudden he's right there with Aaron Judge, and at least in wins above replacement. And if the Yankees are free falling and the Royals are rising, the tide gets there. It continues to rise. And I think we all know that sometimes the story wins the award. I don't know. Do you? Yeah. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think it could.
I don't think it's going to happen, but I think an Aaron Judge injury, which, he's in his 30s now and is a huge guy. So I think
playing center field,
I think that is a distinct possibility. If he would get hurt, that's what really opened the door for Patrick Mahomes on his, was Jalen Hurts got hurt, when he was seemingly driving towards that award, and a couple of years ago, and it opened the door for Patrick Mahomes to take the award back. So that will happen. I think the other thing is, if you really say most valuable player, like, are the Yankees really just all about Aaron Judge? Or you just mentioned with all the other guys that are there, they can survive without him, which I know basically it's the best players, most how most people put it, but it's supposed to be the most valuable player. And I don't know that any one player means more for the team that they play for than Bobby Witt Jr. does.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm looking at the Fangraph wars that you were talking about. Aaron Judge 6'4", 6'2", for Henderson, and 6'1" for Witt. So he's right there as far as winning on that one. But if you take Aaron Judge off, you still have all those other pieces. Like, this offense, I don't know where it is without Bobby Witt Jr. And by the way, he plays shortstop.
Plays it well, not just plays it. But I mean, you had Salvador Perez early in the year, but he's tailed off quite a bit. I mean, he's still hitting fine. He had a rough day today, but he's still got a 121 weighted runs created plus. I mean, that's a good player. He's not Juan Soto. I mean, that's the thing that I keep coming back to, is they have Juan Soto with Aaron Judge, and the Royals have Salvador Perez having a nice year. And then coming into today, their next two by weighted runs created plus, Michael Massey at 109 with 164 plate appearances, which is, what is that, 370 fewer than Bobby Witt Jr. No, 270. Sorry, bad math. And Freddie Fermin is number 4 with 196 plate appearances coming into today. That's what Bobby Witt Jr. has to work with offensively. I mean, it's they are winning because of Bobby Witt and the pitching. That's why they're doing it 100%. I mean, they guys have stepped up, right? You've seen MJ Melendez had a good stretch before he got hurt. Hunter Renfroe has been really solid for 2 months now. Kyle Isbell had a nice run. Michael Massey's hit well for most of his time when healthy, but when healthy is the key. Vinny Pasquantino's had runs, but Bobby Witt Jr. is the only one who has consistently hit all season long on a team that's now 10 games over 500. I think that there's a really strong argument that I don't think will end up getting made, but I think there's a strong argument for it.
Yeah, I think so as well. And just take today's game where they're 1-1, and you're like, boy, this could go. If we're now scoreboard watching, and you're looking. I think the Twins were 5-5 at that point with the Brewers, and I think it was 2-1 Padres. You're trying to bring home all these games, and the Royals. You're like, oh man, look, both these teams might lose, and then the Red Sox were playing at night. And you're like, okay, we got a real chance at this. The Royals got to find a way to win. And you see Bobby Witt Jr. is batting in the 8th, and he comes through immediately. Single, goes first and third with ease, and scores. I know they tacked on a couple more after that, but it was Bobby Witt Jr. that got it started. They needed to run. Kyle Isbell had got it done with a bunt earlier in the game, but when they really needed it, it was Bobby Witt Jr. who came through. That's the definition of value, right? Most valuable player.
Friday too, though. I mean, the home run in the first. I guess it was Saturday. He doubled in the second when they had Michael Garcia on second with nobody out, and they were going to leave him there, but Witt drove him in. It's consistent. It happens almost every game for the Royals.
Yeah, and he is and he's the all around player that I think they like to give it to, right? Like I just being in New York, and if Aaron Judge is gonna hit 60 home runs, he's gonna get it. Right. Like it's as simple as that. But I think there will be, and somebody mentioned, is it like the NFL, where, they're always looking to give it to somebody new. Here it was. Matthew said, are they like that? Not really. I think David's got it right from the standpoint of, the war, because I do think they are metrically driven now. Right. Like I think they've, all the Terry Pendleton over Barry Bonds back in the day, all the ones that just look so god awful now. I don't think the people who vote for it now want to be caught putting up.
It wouldn't happen today.
Yeah, it just wouldn't happen. To the point of Witt being a second half player, here is OPSs by month. So I know somebody mentioned that in the chat room as well. By the way, if you catch us via the podcast, you can be a part of the conversation. We stream normally Sunday nights at 10 p.m. and you can be a part of the conversation when we do the show live. But April, March, 7:36, May, 8:30. Now, all these months that we've already had have been boosted by what he's done this year, because he's been great in every month this year. 736 in April, May, 830, 792 in June, July, 976, 860 in August. Still, that's his second highest, but then down to 722 in September. So if you're looking ahead for what it is, the damage he's doing now, he's to keep pounding it through the rest of July, have a really good August, because he does tail off a little bit in September.
Although I will say 792 last year in September. He had a rough if you remember, it was in New York. He hurt, I think it was a hamstring injury, and he was out for I want to say a week, not going on the IL. Came back and was just a different player after that in his rookie season. Because I remember him, I'd have to look to for sure, but I feel like he was trending upward after a rough start in 2022, and then had that injury and just never quite recovered, it felt like, moving forward. So last year was much better in September. And if he puts up the 792 OPS this September, it's going to feel like a disappointment, but it'll keep his numbers high enough, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I think do you feel confident he's got to be top 3, right, for the Royals to get the extra draft pick off?
Yes, and I believe this is the last year for it too. So
last year that he can get it. Yeah.
Yes, he can get it. Yeah.
It's his first 3 years. And so the Juan Soto thing, I'm hoping that Judge soaks up all the New York votes. Yeah. Like, that's where I'm at. Just get to the top 3. I think Judge is going to get it. But they do vote first, second, third. And I think the New Yorkers may go Judge, Soto. Yeah. I don't know. New York people like to think of themselves as baseball aficionados. So I think they will vote for Judge, but I can see them voting Bobby Witt Jr. just to be like, oh, yeah, I had Junior. They'll go tell their buddies how much they know. Look, I know this guy on the Royals, which everybody knows now after the home run derby. But I still think it's of note. So Gunnar Henderson, and I'm not rooting for an injury, but I don't think it's a lock until one of the Yankees gets hurt.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I'll feel like it's a lock. But the way Gunnar Henderson crapped out the home run derby helped, maybe he'll have a brutal second half and he'll fall off, and we won't even be worried about that one.
Yeah, did he play this weekend? I feel like he sat a couple games.
Maybe it's already happening
for some reason. I'm trying to remember now. Maybe I had a dream. I don't know.
I think it's wishful thinking for your.
It could be
your Royals draft.
No, he played. He played yesterday and Friday, and he went 0 for 5. He went 4 for 5 on Friday. So
Okay.
so far not great, but then 0 for 5 on
Yeah,
Saturday.
1 for
So
3 today with a walk.
he did play. I don't know what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, he was in there. But no, I think Bobby Witt's got a great chance to be top 3. I don't think he'll win the award, but he's definitely in the discussion, and we're going to
Yeah.
see. And that's always great because I've got Bobby Witt's baseball reference page open, and there's there's Rookie of the Year 4th, MVP 7th last year.
Yeah.
And an all-star this year. If you can add in MVP 3, you start having those top 10s, top 5s. It's way too early to start talking about Hall of Fame, but eventually that's going to be one of the things. You start Salvi getting his 9th all-star game. That's one of the big things that, has everybody coming around to him being in the Hall of Fame. So you like all these things that he's checking off. And he's also got some black ink. Last year leading in triples, and caught stealing. But this year leading in hits. And maybe a batting title. If he's going to, keep hitting the way he is right now, that could be there as well. So yeah, impressive stuff from Bobby Witt Jr. So we'll see if he ends up in the top 3. What are you feeling like in the second half? What kind of final record are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the next 13 games before they get to who are they playing after that? Once they get through the Tigers before they come back home for that Red Sox and Cardinals week, the reverse of the pre-All-Star week. If they can go 8-5, I think they could win 87, 88, 89 games. If they go 7-6, 6-7, something like that, which I don't think they will, but I don't know. Maybe I do think they'll go 7-6. I don't think they're going to be under 500. I think that I'm 85, 86 wins right now. I think that they have done enough to hold course over at the 10 games over 500 mark. And that's 86 wins, I guess. So it's kind of my general range. I think that like I said, the next 2 weeks, I could go as high as 90 if they have if they go 10-3 or something like that. It's going to be hard to talk me out of 90, 91 wins. But 7-6, 8-5, I think it's 85, 86, 80, somewhere in that range. But I'll say 86 just to give you an actual number.
Yeah, I predicted 77 wins before the year started. We got a couple people coming in here. Matthews at 88. Cam, I put up theirs, 80 to 85. I hear Kurt's got him at 86 wins. That's where I'm kind of at, 85, 86. I feel like all the success that they're going to have now, they're going to give back in that stretch, right? I'm with you. Like if they just get smoking red hot and we're like, they have now won 10 of their last 13, or they have now won, 14 out of 17, wherever they'll be when they head into that stretch, then maybe I'll feel differently. But I just kind of feel like whatever they're doing now, they're probably going to get back because I don't know where the lineup gets better.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, unless they make a move, obviously, which is.
But do you really think? I mean, we can touch on that. I know that's on the board as well. We're going to get to, what they're going to actually target in the deadline. Are you hearing any names that you're like, oh, if he got that guy, forget about whether the Royals are linked to him or not. Just any names that you've heard being discussed to be moved that you're like, oh, that takes this lineup over the top.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's one name that I had heard that the Royals were. I don't know if they talked or were interested or, the buzzwords. Isaac Paredes from the Rays. If they move him, and he's not a great player, but he's surprisingly better than you think. Not just a power guy. That would be very interesting. I don't know that they're going to make a move at third base with the way Michael Garcia has played since the break. And maybe they decide he just needed some time off. I mean, they mentioned on the broadcast today, played winter ball, went straight to spring training, and then played almost every game in the first half of the season, all that. Maybe he just needed a few days off. I think that's a little bit whatever. But if he continues to play well over the next 3 or 4 games, they might say we don't need anybody. But Paredes would be really interesting to slot in the middle of that lineup. It's another right-handed bat, but at some point, who cares? Just get guys who can hit. That he seems like the type of move that the Royals could make, that he'd be a third baseman. He'd be with the team for 3 years. So they just traded a third base prospect. Now they got a guy for 3 years. Great. I I think he would make some sense. I see the comment about Tommy Pham. Yeah, he would be interesting because they need a guy at the top of the lineup. And if they can get on base, I wrote this on the numbers of the first half. They had a 277 on base percentage from the leadoff spot in the first half. And that didn't get better over the weekend, I don't think, because Adam Frazier, I think, got on twice this weekend out of the leadoff spot. Maybe it was 3 times. I don't know. But if they could get somebody to get on in front of Bobby Witt and Pasquantino and Salvi and Renfroe, that could move the needle more than I think we realize. But it's only a handful of guys.
Yeah, and Praise is probably the best one of the bunch. I mean, in the sense that he plays a position of need, and you wonder almost, was that what was going on with Michael Garcia playing second base?
That's what I thought when it happened, was either they're going to get a third baseman and they need to see what Michael Garcia can do, or they're showcasing Michael Garcia because some team wants him. And now I could see the Angels. The Angels are interesting because they could use Michael Garcia. They could use a lot of things, obviously, but the Angels have a lot that could interest the Royals. And so maybe that was something, but the fact that they moved him back so quickly, I don't know. Either it fell apart or it's just, it wasn't what was going on. I don't know, but I thought that too.
Yeah, I could see Michael Garcia being something that the Rays would want. What would you think it would take to get Paredes?
Yeah, I don't know. He's such an interesting player because let me pull up. I'm pulling him up right now, but he walks, he hits for power.
360 on base right now, I think.
Yeah, he doesn't strike out. His defense is fine. I wouldn't say it's good. It's fine. Which with Bobby Witt's range, you don't necessarily need a great defender at third. You need somebody who's not going to vomit all over himself, basically. And he's got 3 years of control left. He is already in arbitration. So he was a Super 2 this year. So he's got 3 more years, which makes him a little more expensive. What is he making this year? Right? $3.4 million. So just back of napkin math, I could see him over 3 years going, I don't know, 8, 12, 16, maybe at peak. So 30 to 35 million. So that's not cheap. So maybe that decreases some value a little bit. Not guaranteed, of course. So I think it might end up costing more than the Royals are willing to pay.
Yeah, for that kind of control, I mean, that's where I'm like, okay, who do you look to? And and I think the Royals fans, when they start hearing the names that you're going to have to put in there, they're going to freak out because everybody wants to be like, well, Daniel Lynch, no.
Nick Prado.
Daniel Lynch might be on the back end of it. Yeah, Prado and Lynch might get tossed in as guys with a pedigree that they'll say, okay, let's see if we can turn them around. But somewhere at the heart is going to have to be something of quality.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm hoping it's one of the catchers.
I could see that. I could, if they're willing to do it, I could see it's not going to be Mitchell. I don't think they're going to trade Blake Mitchell at this point. Not for what's available right now. I just don't think I don't think that player is out there that they would feel comfortable trading Mitchell for. I'm not saying they wouldn't do it. I just don't think they would do it for what's there.
Right.
But Carter Jensen could be there, and he's having a really nice season. I didn't see what he did today, but I mean, he got the bump to Double-A, hit a home run in his second at bat. It'd be tough to trade the local guy, yeah, but you got to do it sometimes. And he would make some sense. I wonder a little bit. Let me put it this way. I don't think they're going to trade Gavin Cross, but I think that if they traded Gavin Cross, it would tell us a lot of what they're going to do with Jack Caglione in terms of position. So that's kind of interesting, at least to keep an eye on. But I don't really think that's going to happen anyway, because again, I don't think the player that they would trade these guys for is out there right now, and that makes a difference too. It's just there's 5 teams that are 100% selling. Maybe I guess the Reds said they're going to sell. They're willing to trade players who are not under team control after this season. Whoop-de-doo. And it's like 4 guys. I looked. There's some interesting guys, but you're not trading Gavin Cross or Blake Mitchell for Frankie Montas with 2.5 months left on his contract. So I just don't think that guy is out there for the big trade. So yeah, maybe Jensen.
And for the record, Northwest Arkansas postponed today.
Oh.
So no game, no
So
stats.
he did not hurt or help his stats today.
Oh, it remains the same individual he was before. So, but yeah, that's where I just, you did a nice job with Paredes and making me think, okay, that would be a nice addition there. But that's where I just find it hard to go back to my 3.5. Is like I don't know what they're going to get. I would love it. I would love it if they and like for me, you know, I'm actually right now on Sunday Sound Off on 41 at the same time. It's a miracle.
Magic.
But, I won't explain to you how I'm doing this, but you can figure it out, obviously. But one of the questions for that is like, are the Royals making the playoffs? And I said no. And then the talk was about, making trades and who do you go get? And one of the comments was, well, you have to make a trade. Well, no, because when you start thinking you have to make a trade, that's where you go make a mistake. That's where you're like, well, this is the best that's out there. And then you get in a bidding war for something that's not that good.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the Royals, I think their best days still lie ahead. Now, we know that there's a lot of guys on basically 1-year deals, and they are seemingly getting the best of Michael Wacha and the best of Seth Lugo and the best of Hunter Renfroe now for a couple of months. I mean, can you really expect, even if all those guys say, okay, I'm staying for those contracts, you really expect them all to be that good again? And so maybe this is like, hey, after this year, it might take 2 or 3 years to get back into this spot because it has been a bit of a perfect storm to line it all up. I would love to see them add to the ball club, but I don't want to see them give up anything that is more the big picture because I want to see this team. If this is what they're going to do, I don't care which they do. You can go windows, like we have a 5-year window, which wasn't their plan, but it was reality of 13 to 17. They had 5 years where they're in contention, and then it crashed hard. They didn't think it was going to. Everybody else did, and it did. And if that's your plan, I'm fine with that. I will live with the rebuild, the Billy Bean quick turnaround, 2 or 3 years to get it going to then have a 5-year window, right? I'm fine with that. Or if you're going to say we're going to be good enough because we feel like if you, with the expanded wild card, we can get in there. We're going to try to do what the Rays do. We're going to try to do what the Cardinals do and be good every year. I'm fine with that as well. But state your goal and then make your moves that way. Yeah. And the Royals are talking about being good every year. So don't throw some deal around where you blow out everything for the future when you're talking about being good every year, because if that's your plan, then your moves have to be tailored to that plan.
Sure. But and on the flip side, I mean, going back to what I said about the guy not being out there, I'm looking at Fangraphs right now to try to just get a name, and I'm kind of not finding one. But okay, let's Jarren Duran, for example. If the Red Sox are out of it and they say we're shopping Jarren Duran, okay, make that trade. That's fine because you've got him for I think 4 more years after this one, whatever it is. You've got a potential superstar center fielder that I would trade Blake Mitchell for that. Yes. Guy's not out there. And you're right. They want to be successful every season. You can't trade Blake Mitchell for Jesse Winker. Not that they were going to. That's never been on the table, but you can't make stupid trades because you feel like you have to make a move to win right now. You've got to have confidence that you can win. If you're confident in yourself, then you're not going to make that move to hurt the future just for the season.
Yeah, no. And I think that's the thing that, is hard to hear when you're a fan.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think, you want to hear we're going to get something because I want it right now. But I think the best thing, and it's like Brian said right here, I'm ready to ride or die with what we have this year. And because with an effort, with the idea being that we'll be able to add more to it in the future if we don't give up, everything that's in the system. I'm fine with that too. Right. Because I don't want to watch 100-loss baseball anymore.
Yeah.
And so I want a competitive team out there. And I think the Rays have shown, as have the Brewers, that you can be in a small market, and not that Tampa's that small, but it plays that way. You can be in a small market and be competitive every year. And so let's go
the
ahead.
Brewers don't get enough credit for that, by the way.
I agree. They've been fantastic for the better part. I mean, they were winning. Remember, they acquired Zach Greinke before the Royals were good. And they've been good and competitive basically the entire time since they went out and got Greinke and CC Sabathia and did all that. And they're still a good club.
Yeah. They've been under 500. Let's see, 2020. I don't even count that. They had 2013 to 2016. They were under 500, topping out at 94 losses.
Okay.
If the Royals have every decade, they have a 4-season stretch where they top out at 94 losses. Maybe that's the 106 loss Royals from last year talking in me, but I would take that. When you get, what is it? 92, 86, 95, 89, 96, 86. Those are the last, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 full seasons since their last losing season. And they're 57 and 42 this year. I would take that.
Yeah.
100%.
For sure. With free consultations, no commissions, and in-house crews, Gain Asphalt and Concrete is your one-stop shop for all things parking lot. Every project comes with a written warranty as well. Gain Asphalt keeps your parking lot safe, helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. You can find them online at ganasphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gain Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. This is the time I like to remind people the seal coating. If you know you're going to need it, it's going to be fall, and everyone's going to be racing the clock. They start getting pounded with calls as the temperatures start going down, and then you're racing against it. You know, it's got to be warm. Right now, no problem. They can get you on the schedule and get it done for sure. If that is in your future with your parking lot, make sure you call Gain Asphalt and Concrete right now at 816-484-3338. Find them online at ganasphalt.com. Let's talk about Jordan Lyles. Let's do it because Rany's not here and he and I don't have to fight over it. You know, I will forever stick up for the fact that somebody had to pitch those innings last year, right? Yeah. But this is kind of bizarro world, and he is kind of an odd dude. I mean, like at spring training went to him and said, "Hey, I'd like to bring you down, and, you know, sit you down and talk to you." And he looked at me like my head was on backwards, and like, you know, couldn't figure it out. And then I asked a question. I said, I tried to start it out by giving him credit for soaking up innings. And he immediately went to, well, wasn't the season I wanted. I could not believe how negative he was, right? Like it's spring training, it's a new year, and you just got thrown, I'll freely admit, a softball about soaking up innings, even though you had one of the worst ERAs. And he was immediately down. Like, I have no idea what the personal issues were, but like I said, it was depressing talking to him. So I don't know what it is. I hope everything is fine. You know, wish nothing but the best. But that is one of the more bizarre episodes we've seen with a player coming to Kansas City. That bad, that consistent, and then end that way.
Yeah. Did he? I'm looking it up now. I can't remember if he pitched the day before he went on the restricted list, but it was an interesting usage pattern this year, right? I know he didn't. He hadn't pitched for a week. He hit the games he pitched in. The Royals won by 11, 9, 9, and 10. And then he pitched an inning and a 5-run loss. And then that's it. That's the end. That was the last we heard of him. And I think it's important to say that I think we both are in agreement here. I hope everything is okay.
Right.
You know, I don't, whatever is wrong, I hope that it gets better. And I know that it may not. I don't know what it is, obviously, but it's a really odd situation. Odd that he was supposedly in Arizona with the club, according to a couple stories I saw. I think it was in the Star. And then the Royals had to make a decision, and they did. And now he's a free agent. I don't know. This is one of those. It's funny because I am so deeply curious myself, but at the same time, I also know we don't have any right to know what's going on. And so it's kind of the devil and angel on my shoulders. But it's one of the bigger Kansas City sports mysteries, I feel like, in a while.
I think the other thing that's important to note is that the Royals are moving on from him.
Yeah.
Right. That like they signed him. They had a purpose. The purpose was to soak up innings last year. And then they signed over him. And I think some credit needs to be given to the ownership group, John Sherman and all of them, that they greenlighted more money to be spent. They didn't freak out and tell, JJ Picola, no, try to rub his nose in Jordan Lyles that, no, this has got to work. You've got to make this work. Mm-hmm. We're not giving you any more. You got this. And it seemed like at times that was the glass approach to things.
Who was the Cuban they signed?
Who was it?
The Cuban from a long time ago that failed completely. I'm blanking on his name.
Noel Arguelles?
Yes, no, I was Googling. I Googled Cuban lefty Royals. Noel Arguelles. Yeah, I feel like that. Yes, that was the situation that they were told, no, we're done. You can't sign a guy anymore because that didn't work.
They wouldn't cut him. They kept bringing him and advancing him up the minors with like this 9 ERA.
I know.
That's an interesting one. I actually saw him buying jewelry in the parking lot at spring training out of the trunk of a guy's car.
Sure.
He had opened up his trunk,
as you do,
and he's like, I had these gold necklaces and everything, and he's buying jewelry. And I'm like, I don't know if it was knockoff stuff or the real deal or what, but I'm like, you're terrible right now, and you're grabbing another necklace. Like, come on,
Hey,
man. Just a interesting side note on Arguelles, but yeah, but like, so I give ownership credit, and I give Piccolo credit. It didn't work. He did soak up the innings. I'll forever say that was something you do have to go ahead and get 24 outs.
somebody
Right?
has to pitch.
If you're going to win, you need at least 24, and if you're going to lose, you need 27. So somebody's got to get them, and so I think that was part of it. But the ownership, they went right back at it, right? And they paid for Michael Wacha and Seth Lugo. And so the one thing I will say about the Jordan Lyles, it's not really about Lyles, it's about the mindset of the club and how that's different. And they are cutting the player now and walking out. They're not saying, well, you got to find a spot for him because we're paying him, so he's staying.
Yeah.
They're paying him to go someplace else.
Well, that's the second in 2 years too. Because
Yeah.
they cut Dozier in, I think it was in May last year, which is May for a contract that runs. It's not over yet. They're still paying him this year. So yeah, the ownership, they've shown a lot that, and JJ Piccolo both have shown if you don't perform, there is a limit. I mean, I think that if there's 5 years left on a deal, they're probably not going to cut a guy, but they'll move on. And that's a good thing.
And you have to, because that's the cost of doing business. They're not all going to be gems. So if you sit paralyzed, on signing a free agent because you think there's a chance it might not work out, then you're never going to succeed.
Yeah.
And they went right back in, firing on free agents again, and the Royals are reaping the benefits of it right now. And I think that's huge. So I do think it's interesting, just that whole time frame. But I think the positive is that they're now walking away from it when it's not good. All right, it won't be Jordan Lyles soaking up innings. And I mentioned this at the top with Seth Lugo going 9 today. The plan isn't to be like, okay, we got a lead, we're going to someplace else. They don't look like they're going to let off the throttle when they give Seth Lugo 9 innings. What do you think the solution is for watching some of these innings totals?
Yeah, it's interesting because Lugo's career high is last year 147, I believe, in a third. He's at 136 now. He's almost there. And you say, okay, let's get him 30 more innings. That's 41 more innings in 62 games for a guy. He's probably going to start, 12, 13 more times if he makes every start. He's going to get up there. And maybe they say, look, we don't care. He's 34 years old. He knows how to pitch. He's a young starter in a veteran's body, which I think is an interesting combination. We've talked about this a little bit, that he's a guy who is in his second year as a starter, but has 12 years, whatever it is, 10 years of big league experience to fall back on. So maybe there's something different with him, but it's not just him. Wacha hasn't thrown more than 130 innings, I think, since 2017. Singer's never gotten to 160. Cole Reagan's, his career high, I think, is like 120, 130, something like that, minors and majors combined. Right. Alec Marsh is at 130, something like that, minors and majors combined in his career. They are all approaching it. I wrote about it before the season. Look, they're going to need. They've used 2 other starters this year, and Dan Altavilla. I don't count that since it was an opener. But, good teams need 10, 12 starters throughout the course of the season. The Royals are probably going to need at least one other person to make more than one start. And that takes me back to the trade. I could see them making a move for a starter who fills a gap. Maybe it isn't a star. I think that you're not going to go out and get. I'm trying to think you're not going to get Garrett Crochet or Tarek Skubal, of course. But do you take on Tyler Anderson and say, we'll pay the salary for next year? It's $13 million. We want some innings. Do that. I don't know, but there's some decisions to be made there.
123, I think, last year in a combination of multiple places. Obviously Texas minors, big league club, Royals, Round Rock, Omaha. It's a fun little line. This 23 has, the combined minor league numbers, the big league numbers, but he's at 116 right now.
Yeah.
So how far are you comfortable? Is he the guy that you do, because you've got a lot more controllable years with him.
He's more important too, for the future, obviously. Yeah, that's a good question. Is it one? It is. Yeah. I don't know. They talk up his conditioning and the way he prepares and the way that he is his mechanics are so good and all that, as if they're not going to worry about it. And maybe the Royals are going to, I mean, look, let's move back to the Rays real quick, which Quatrero and Hoover came from there. Obviously, they run pitchers into the ground. I mean, you're looking at their situation right now. They've got some pitchers to move because they've got 3 guys coming back from Tommy John, and then another one next year, maybe 2 more next year. I know that they just got Shane Baz back. Jeffrey Springs is coming back. I'm trying to think who else. There's a couple more guys. I mean, they get guys hurt because they just keep pitching them until they're done. And I think that maybe that's the Royals' thought here with Cole Reagans is, hey, we've got 5 years left with him, and we're going to miss one of them.
Yeah,
but this is the season that he's good, so we're going to let him go.
Yeah, it's just I think what you hit upon is reality. It's that the Rays are like, look, they're all going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Now the key is, and we know how to make more.
Right.
Like that's
part
the
of
difference. The Rays has to come into play as well. Like they're all going to get hurt, so we're not going to sit here and worry about them and not throw guys because we're going to do it. And I think that is kind of the way they're approaching this. So like, look, we're in it, and as long as we're in it, we're going to go for it, and we'll deal with tomorrow. And that's fine as long as you're good at dealing with tomorrows.
Yeah.
And I think you can be confident. And if your owner's going to spend some money, like what we all want to be is, right, the Rays, the Guardians, the Brewers, but then have the owner spend some more money too, right, to go above and beyond. And in free agency, J.J. Piccolo has looked pretty good at finding guys via the trade with Cole Reagans, finding guys via the free agency with Waka and Lugo. There's a reason to believe that this is repeatable, that if somebody does blow out, that it's okay because he'll get more.
Yeah.
The question is, can they start to develop it? Because
that's a big issue. We're seeing, I mean, this group with the Brian Sweeney and Zach Bove led pitching development. There are some strides being made, 100%. We're not seeing it yet, though, and it's not their fault. We're not seeing it because it's just not quick enough, because it takes some time. But yeah, we need to see if they can figure out. I mean, Alec Marsh might be a potential name that you look at and go, okay, they've gotten a lot more out of him than he was before, and if they can do that 10 times. And 2 of those 10 become even better than that, you feel good. But we just haven't seen it yet. They need to get there.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, I think a admirable position to be in if you're going to be like, hey, we're giving it all for this year. But I do worry, man. Like I said, I'm a chronic worrier. I worry about Greinke every pitch. I worry about them getting to the finish line with these guys as well. So, I mean, I think that's going to be like top of mind for me. And do you worry about Marsh, or Marsh might not even be in the rotation? Who knows where that's going to go with things. But Singer, you don't. He's been at 159 last year.
Yeah,
it's really just kind of a Reagans Lugo thing, right?
Yeah, well, and Waka, but you don't care as much about him. That sounds bad, but whatever. I guess one thing I have heard from a couple of different people that they are interested in left-handed starters. And that's, you start to look, okay, what can they get? And it's Anderson, Yusei Kikuchi, pending free agent. That could be interesting. You also feel like if you get to the playoffs, he's a guy who could be a power lefty in the bullpen if you don't want him in the rotation. So I don't think he'd cost a ton in terms of prospects. I mean, that's interesting at least. And I don't think it was a total accident that Alec Marsh pitched out of the bullpen on Friday. I mean, I think that, yes, he needed work. But I also think they thought, we'll take a look. Let's see what it looks like. And it was okay. I think that he's gotten, his control has gotten better to the point that I could see him as a dynamic short inning reliever. And maybe they wanted to take a look at it.
Speaking of the deadline stuff, I know we touched on some of the offensive ones, but do you see any more bullpen being a target?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're looking. Obviously, they still need some more help. Chris Bubich has looked really good, but it's 5 outings. I think that you are cautiously optimistic about it, but I mean, look, Matt Sauer looked really good in his first 5 or 6 outings too, even in just blowout work. So it became blow up work later for him. But I think they're done with. Well, I don't think they're done. I think it's possible. It's likely they're done with high leverage relievers. I think that you're going to look at more of middle guys who maybe. I wouldn't be terribly surprised if they got a guy who's got like a 12.5% walk rate, but he strikes out 30% of hitters and has the ERA you're going to see them acquire is not going to be pretty, but they feel like they can do something with a guy or something like that. I think that's the move they're going to make.
I think the move bullpen wise will be for a closer, a guy that is the
if
guy.
they do, yes.
I mean,
I don't know, but who are they going to get? It's Carlos Estevez, Tanner Scott, but they're crazy high demand right now.
Yeah, that is the problem. Is like everybody wants that bullpen help, and then what do you end up having to pay for it?
Yeah.
Go back to seeing our original point about how trading. You have to trade now. We have to have a closer. You don't want to overpay for like the most likely to be hurt position out there, right?
Yeah.
You want to be able to develop those power arms. That's what you want.
Now, that said, if the Rangers sell, Robertson or Yates would be very interesting. So, I mean, that's the other thing too. What's today, the 21st? Yeah, we're 9 days out, and there are 5.5 teams selling. In a week, it could look totally different. I mean, look at the save leaderboard. You've got. I'm actually taking a little bit while to get down to somebody who's on a non-contending team, but you've got Estevez at 17. If the Rays sell, is Pete Fairbanks interesting? Yeah, he's interesting. If the Giants sell, is Camilo Doval interesting? I don't think they're going to move him, but yeah, he's not having a great year, but he's interesting. Let's see, Mason Miller is too expensive for the Royals right now, but is Hector Neris interesting if the Cubs sell? Yeah, there's a lot of guys who could be intriguing, but we don't know if they're selling yet. 8 days out, which is just crazy.
Yeah, and that is the thing, is that the wild card has opened it up to so many teams that
Yeah.
I do think you are going to get a rash of sales. Anyone who's, I think there'll be, or not a rash. There'll be two or three more teams that go ahead and say, okay, we're not good enough. We're not going anywhere with this, and so we've got to do it. And that's one of the things about the easy schedule for the Royals. Even if it doesn't end, even if this ends up being an 82-80 season, because the Yankees and the Guardians and that stretch ends up wearing them out. Here we sit, still talking about contending baseball, heading to a deadline, talking about adding to the ball club. And so, in a lot of ways, the schedule has smiled on the Royals from that standpoint.
Yeah.
We're
We got training camp.
Yeah, we made it to training camp. Exactly. All right, listen, we're always brought to you by our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete, nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. You can find them online at GannAsphalt.com. Any questions you got, they'll be happy to answer them for you. They do every kind of work that you could ever need for your parking lot. Call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. David, thank you so much for filling in. You're always our go-to guy when one of us is out. Rany on vacation. He'll be back next week. David Lesky, read his great blog, Inside the Crown. Does fantastic work there. It is a must-read. You saw all the people in the chat room commenting about how much they love it. He's got great stuff there each and every day. In fact, like, what was it today? The 48, or was it not? I don't know if that was today, but the 48 quality starts.
Yeah, Friday's article. Yep.
There it is, which, by the way, is already more than they had all of last year.
16 more. And now they're 19 more after the last 3 days.
Yeah. So, it's unbelievable. So check out David's great work at Inside the Crown. So for David Lesky, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on Kaufman Corner.